She's going to rob the people who pay the bills in this country to pay for her obese and out-of-control spending. Why won't she finally end the ripoff?
Welcome to Moose and the Loose. My name's David. Today we've got a spicy House of Commons session, full-on battle between Pierre Poilievre and Chrystia Freeland. Pierre comes locked and loaded with multiple gotcha moments.
9 years ago, the Prime Minister promised that taxing and spending more would make everything fair. Since then, Canada's had the worst growth in the G7, the worst in Canada's history since the Great Depression. Housing costs have doubled, rising faster than any other G7 country. So 76% of youth believe they'll never be able to afford a home. 1 in 10 people are at eating at food banks in Toronto, where there are 256 homeless encampments. Haven't the Liberals learned that taxing away doctors, taxing away home builders, taxing away the entrepreneurs who make paychecks is economic wackoness?
The Honourable
Mr. Speaker, we all certainly learned something yesterday. After 8 weeks of dithering and evasion, we learned which side the Conservatives are on. They had a chance to be very clear and say a teacher or a welder should not pay tax at a higher rate than a multimillionaire. But they just couldn't help themselves. At the end of the day, the Conservatives are always on the side of those at the very top and always against working people. That's what we saw yesterday.
The member mentions welders. Welders start businesses. Among the 300,000 small businesses that are targeted by this tax, according to the minister's own published documents. So those welders will pay a 66% tax on their investments, the same welders that build the homes that we're going to need. Mr. Speaker, the member mentions welders. Welders incorporate. They start small businesses, welding businesses that build things, welding products that go into apartment complexes in which people live. So when the member taxes the small businesses that help us build the housing, she not only kills jobs for those welders, she actually kills housing when we are in a housing shortage. How could the minister possibly think it's a good idea to tax home building in a housing crisis and farmers in a food crisis?
Mr. Speaker, well, for one thing, the Conservative leader should get his facts straight. Of course, what we are talking about is a 2/3 inclusion rate, not a 2/3 tax rate. But he never bothers to actually get his numbers straight. What he also doesn't bother to do is to actually stand on the side of working people. He has been faking his support for workers, but yesterday workers learned where he really stands, and that is not with them.
That's right. That's for sure. Taxing farmers during a food crisis, taxing home builders during a housing crisis, taxing away doctors during a healthcare crisis, and taxing small businesses during an economic growth crisis is economic vandalism. And nothing less, Mr. Speaker. That is precisely why this minister has given us the worst growth in the G7, the worst growth for the next 40 years projected for the OECD, and 256 homeless encampments in her hometown. Isn't that the predictable result of her disastrous policies?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, do you know what the average income in Ottawa Carleton is? Because I do. It is $58,400. The average person in Ottawa Carleton could only dream of earning $250,000 in a given year. But the Conservative leader thinks his average constituent should pay tax on their hard-earned salary at a higher rate than someone who is earning more than $250,000 in capital gains alone. Whose side is he really on?
Exactly.
This is all sneaky garbage that they're trying to do here. Basically, like, there's a whole bunch of people that are, like I showed in the previous video, the bulk of the Canadian population is around 60 to 65 right now, and then it dips, and then it's 40 to 25. That means you've got a lot of people in that range of 55 heading over 60, 65 that are going to probably be selling their businesses here. And since they're in that age range, they had more likely blue-collar jobs. There weren't going to be tech jobs, etc., because of the era they came up in. And they'll be selling those businesses, whether they're a welder, electrician, you name it. After someone spent years building that up, maybe they have 5 or 6 employees, that business is likely worth a lot of money. And it's worth a heck of a lot more than $250,000. So when they go to sell that, they'll be getting dinged at a higher rate because of Freeland's new policy here. They know what they're doing. They know the demographic that's going to be retiring or that'll be passing on a house to their kids, and they want a piece of that pie so then they can flush it over to McKinsey and green slush funds and all this corrupt nonsense. Possibly they'll end up with that money back in their pocket.
Welders won't have to pay this tax. Only the 0.13% wealthiest. Well, all the economists contradict that. The fact that she has 300,000 businesses that she admits will be taxed and all of their owners will be taxed contradicts that as well. So there's one way we could solve this controversy. Will she commit to put in law that no one in the bottom 99.87% will pay any new taxes?
Checkmate, man.
A moment ago, the leader of the opposition already demonstrated his financial illiteracy. He does not understand how the capital gains inclusion rate works.
This is hilarious. She's a reporter acting as a finance minister. She knows nothing of her job.
I think we should just let's put aside the disagreement and even the debate on this, and let's come to a resolution here that will bring a lot of calm to the millions of Canadians who are worried about their taxes going up. The minister claims that only the 0.13% wealthiest Canadians will pay. So why not just enshrine that in law? Will she commit today to pass an amendment to her tax bill stating that no one whose income is in the bottom 99.87% will pay any new taxes at all?
There's nothing really she can say to this. She's screwed.
Mr. Speaker, let's review what we've learned so far in question period today.
This is question period. You don't get to question. You have to answer. This is so... It's just year after year of these fools never answering a single question.
First, the leader of the official opposition doesn't even understand how the capital gains inclusion rate works.
Yes, that's right.
That's a problem. Second, the leader of the official opposition disavows his own words in this House about capital gains. But probably the most important thing is that the average income in Carleton is $58,400. Their MP is not on the side of working people earning that wage in his own.
That's bottom line.
That is shameful.
The Honourable.
Speaker, I'm just quoting right now from her own budget speech, where she said, for 99.87% of Canadians, there will be no extra capital gains tax. Okay, she put it in her speech. So why won't she put it in the law?
Here, here. The Honourable Government House Leader. Order.
What, Freeland can't answer?
For about 20 years, this leader has been skulking around this place without really much contact with the outside world. In the 9 years that they've been over there, they voted against a child benefit, a dental plan, a prescription drug plan, a child care plan. Every time Canadians look to that person to stand up for their interests, for fairness in Canada, that guy takes a seat, Mr. Speaker.
I'm going to talk about fairness. I have a lot of people who comment about the $10 a day childcare plan. I don't have any experience with that, but I'm hearing firsthand accounts. People are on a 2-year waiting list to get on that. They're off paying 40, 50, 60 bucks a day for private childcare because they can't get on that. It's 2-year waiting list. Why are we paying for a program that is not available then? So some people get the benefit, but others don't? It's not how that works. Everyone has to get the benefit or nobody. It's the same thing as their dental plan. Only people 87 years old or older who still have their teeth can use the dental plan. How is that a fair plan? The Liberals are the most hypocritical sacks of garbage ever.
I see they've pulled the finance minister off the ice. Can't answer questions. So she mentioned she won't guarantee in law that the bottom 99.87% of Canadians will pay nothing. So let's make it a little bit easier for her. She claimed that she doesn't want welders to have to pay more. Will she amend her bill to ensure that not a single welder anywhere in Canada will be forced to pay this tax increase? Yes or no?
Getting champagne.
We will take no lessons from these conservatives, Mr. Speaker. Generational fairness is key to Canadians, Mr. Speaker, and that's why in the last budget we presented measures, Mr. Speaker, measures to build this country, measures to invest in our economy, measures to invest in the middle class, measures to help Canadians, Mr. Speakers. And you know what? Our capital gains change will help Canadians. Mr. Speaker, on this side of the House, can you believe they voted against tax fairness, Mr. Speaker?
Shocking.
Against tax fairness, Mr. Speaker. On this side of the House, we will fight for Canadians and we will fight for the middle class.
This clown show is unbelievable. Back when I was a kid, there were circuses, and then circuses have kind of disappeared. Well, it's back. The circus is back, folks. It's in the House of Commons in the seats of red.
The Leader of the Official Opposition.
Okay, over there?
A little wacky.
I won't call them wacko, Mr. Speaker. That's unparliamentary. I just have a very simple question. And this is for the finance minister if she's not still in hiding. Very simple question. She said she doesn't want welders to have to pay more. Will she put an amendment in her tax bill saying that not one single welder will face a tax increase?
This is checkmate. Pierre's got him.
Speaker, in any given year, 0.13% of Canadians will pay a modest increase in their taxable gains. But I hear the leader across who has never seen a support for a single Canadian that he is prepared to vote for, talking about sidelining people. He sidelines that entire caucus in every single question period. We hear from him yawning and misinformation all the time, Mr. Speaker. Unchain the rest of the people over there.
What is he even talking about? McKinnon has lost his mind. The sessions usually have Pierre and whoever is willing to stand up and talk. Usually Trudeau doesn't show up for work. Freeland or whoever. Back and forth a few times, and then everyone else has their turn. I don't play this full sessions here because they're a full hour and so, but a lot of people get to speak. I have no idea what he's talking about. The only time that Pierre talks a lot is on Wednesdays when Trudeau is supposed to be at work. McKinnon's just trying to spread more falsehoods as usual. What are they applauding? Like, these people are losers. They've done nothing.
Order.
Mr. Speaker, I know that the Liberals are demanding I stop asking questions. I can understand why, because the finance minister's gone into hiding and stopped answering them. She's claimed that no one except the rich is 0.13% will pay any new tax. But the greatest university economist in Canada, Jack Mintz, has reported that 1.25 million will pay. But let's not dispute who's right or wrong. Will the minister accept an amendment to her bill to ensure that not a single plumber will have to pay any extra taxes under this proposal?
Mr. Speaker, we can see how nervous and how anxious the Conservatives are. They spent 8 weeks terrified of saying anything about capital gains. And today, the Conservative leader is so anxious, he doesn't trust a single member of his caucus to say a word. But you know, Mr. Speaker, I have sympathy for them because they have shown how phony they are. They have had a chance to be on the side of working people, on the side of fairness. They've shown whose side they're really on.
The Honourable.
This is hilarious considering if you see she's going gray, probably due to stress because she's probably done something bad and she's worried about it. calling them phony when these guys literally have more scandals than they can count.
Will the finance minister exempt all carpenters from her tax increase? Yes or no?
Mr. Speaker, do you think someone who makes their salary, like that person in Carleton, whose only income is their wage, who's making $58,000 a year, do you think they should pay tax at a higher marginal rate than someone earning capital gains of more than $250,000 a year? It's not complicated, but it's complicated for them.
The Honourable
The way she speaks, like she talking down to Canadians, only making $58,000. Ugh, just such an arrogant pile of.
Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, there are a lot of restaurant owners who will pay this tax increase on their very first dollar of investment gains that inside a company. That is a fact. So will who earn $58,000 a year? So simple question. If what I'm saying is wrong, there's a very simple solution. Will the minister commit to amending her bill to say that any retiring restaurant owner who's been earning $58,000 a year will be fully exempt from any of these tax increases?
Mr. Speaker, there was once a Conservative Prime Minister. His name was John Diefenbaker. He was from the prairies like me and like the Conservative leader. He set up a royal commission on tax, and Ken Carter, who led that commission, said memorably, a buck is a buck is a buck. He thought that all your income, whether it's a capital gain or you make it through hard work, should be taxed. But these Conservatives have shown their true colors. They are just not on the side of working people, and they're embarrassed.
This is just greed. It's just complete greed.
John Diefenbaker is from Saskatchewan, where there are lots of farmers. So the member won't commit to amend her law to exempt carpenters or plumbers or retiring modest income independent restaurant owners. So very simple question. Given that we're in a food price crisis, will the finance minister amend her proposal to say that no farmer will pay higher taxes under this plan?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader is squirming. The Conservative leader is nervous. And I know why he's nervous, Mr. Speaker, because we presented him yesterday with a very clear choice. You could be on the side of someone who sweats every day, who earns all their money through their paycheck, or you can say someone who is earning in every single year more than $250,000 in capital gains. We know whose side we're on. Now we know whose side they're on too.
Yeah. This is coming from the lady who wrote a book that's all about the rise of the super wealthy. Somebody's got an obsession. We're not buying this crap.
A wonderful grandmother, 93-year-old Liz Diachin, is severing a few lots off of her longtime family farm to give them to her kids and grandkids so that they can have a place to live in this terrible housing crisis. She was surprised to learn she's going to be paying this latest Liberal tax increase. She was asked, "Are you rich?" She said, "Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? I'm on a pension." Mr. Speaker, will the finance minister amend her bill so that low-income grandmothers who are passing on a little bit of land for their kids to live on will not be hit by this tax increase?
Mr. Speaker, I want to share another quote. The wealthiest 1% who own the most expensive and luxurious real estate and have in their portfolios the most stocks and bonds will continue to see their net worth expand, having done nothing, by the way, to deserve that expanded net worth. When they sell those assets, they accrue a capital gain. We think more of it should be taxed. That's a quote from the member from Carleton. But that was when he was being a fake populist.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, Liz Diachin is not among those wealthy 1% the member just described. She has a pension of probably, I'm guessing, $45,000 a year. She's a grandmother who's simply trying to sever off a few lots so that her kids and her grandkids can have a place to live. Those lots have enough value that they will be hit by capital gains tax, and they're over $250,000. So she will pay this, she will pay us the 66% tax. So very simple question. Will the minister amend the law so that this wonderful grandmother does not have to pay higher taxes?
The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I think the Conservative leader is a little bit confused because he seemed to think that those were my words I quoted. I was in fact quoting him.
Oh.
I was quoting his words about the wealthiest 1% and their stock portfolios and luxury real estate. But that was back when the Conservative leader was pretending to be a friend of working people. He was pretending to be on the side of the little guy. Yesterday we learned that is just not true, but we are on the side of fairness.
Fair for every Canadian living in a tent. The Liberals, like, come on. Why do they keep trying this stuff? We don't trust them. We don't believe them. They've proven to be scandalous, liars, thieves. Can they just step down? Like, what is wrong with these people? They just want to hold on to squeeze as much money out before we throw them out on the street?
Mr. Speaker, it is true that this government has unjustly enriched the wealthiest 1% with their inflationary policies. So let's just make sure that no one else pays the bill for that. Will the minister accept an amendment to her proposal to ensure that the 99% of lowest income earners do not pay this tax increase, so this wonderful grandmother does not have to pay the bill?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
The leader opposite has spent the entire question period talking about electricians and farmers and fishers and
He totally walked into that.
We are asking all those who pay who gain $250,000 on their investments in a given year, 0.13% of the population, to pay a little bit more. I don't know any electricians who are in that category, Mr. Speaker.
Well, if that were true, then they would be prepared to put in writing in the law that no farmer, fisher, or electrician will pay any new tax under this increase. Will they?
The law is that anyone who makes a capital gain over $250,000, the first $250,000 are exempt, 50% inclusion rate. Over $250,000 in a given year will pay 66%. That's less than Brian Mulroney asked them to pay, and it gets us closer to the fairness that who's asking for? The electricians, the farmers, the teachers, the nurses, the fishers, the people in Canada who expect us to stand up for tax fairness and against that!
That is Trudeau's school of ranting.
Mr. Speaker, the minister proposes this new tax increase on every single dollar that a fisherman earns inside of his small business. There is no $250,000 exemption for him. Even if he just earns $1,000, he'll have to pay the tax increase. We forget it's not just our wonderful farmers that feed us, but it's also our fishermen. Will the finance minister amend her bill to ensure that there will not be a single fish harvester anywhere in Canada that will face a tax increase?
The Honourable.
Just so it's clear for everyone, basically he's talking about corporate versus individual. You can see here splitting the individual $250,000 annual threshold with corporations. Under the new rules, individuals cannot share their $250,000 annual threshold with corporations they own. So if a fisherman has 5 fishing boats under a corporation, it's worth $5 or $8 or $10 million. He's getting hit at that 66.7% rate from $1 and not a $250,000 inclusion that is at the lower rate. So once again, Pierre Poilievre is right on the money, and Freeland is trying to take the money.
Mr. Speaker, I grew up in Atlantic Canada. I grew up as the grandson of 2 dairy farmers. I grew up around an awful lot of fishers. I grew up around people who worked with their hands and didn't think that electricians got electricity from the sky, but rather they got it in plugged from the wall. What I would like to challenge the leader to do is he should gather all of the electricians who think that they should not pay over $250,000 on capital gains. I'll get together all the electricians who think that a buck is a buck is a buck. We'll compare.
The Honourable.
That was such a weak argument. Obviously, Pierre doesn't believe that, because he said it 3 or 4 times in speeches. It's just part of a speech. It's not, he literally thinks, oh, the electricity comes from the sky. And here he says, oh, it comes from the wall. That's just as exaggerating as saying it comes from the sky. Obviously, it doesn't come from either. It's generated and sent through power lines into power poles, then comes into the house.
Will they exempt electricians from this tax hike?
Mr. Speaker, for the past couple of years, the Conservative leader has been cosplaying a friend of union workers. But yesterday, we called his bluff, and they know it. Here's what the president of the CLC said. With this vote, the Conservative leader has shown he believes that an ordinary worker flipping burgers for a living should be taxed on 100% of their income, while his CEO friends making millions from flipping stocks should be taxed on only half of their income. That is what the Conservatives believe, and it is shameful.
Mr. Speaker, there are many union workers who have rental properties that they invest in. Will the minister make the commitment that no union worker will have to pay this tax increase?
Checkmate every
I don't know
time.
which union workers that he's talking to, but the union workers that I talk to and that we talk to and dialogue with and that the finance minister just quoted are people who believe in solidarity, who believe in caring for others, who believe in dental plans and child care and the Canada Child Benefit and every
Dental plans, really? What union workers are you talking to? One's over 87 years old?
other single thing that this leader has voted against. The very things that this fairness tax measure will pay for. So yes, Mr. Speaker, we accept the leader's challenge. Let's talk to union members and see what side of the equation they come down on.
Good answer.
Data, Dr. Jack Mintz calculated that 50% of those who will pay this tax increase earn less than $120,000 a year, and 10% earn less than $18,000 a year. No, we don't have to dispute these numbers. Why don't we just make it simple and make it clear? Will the minister accept an amendment to exempt anyone who earns less than $120,000 a year from this tax increase? Yes or no?
That is a great suggestion. That is, gotcha.
Mr. Speaker, actually, there is a $250,000 threshold. So the new rate kicks in only after you've made $250,000 in capital gains in a given year. So
That's not true. If you own a corporation, it's from $1, and he already pointed that out. She knows that. I mean, look at the stress. The stress is taking over this woman. She's looking haggard. She's looking old. She's turning gray. This just popped up out of nowhere. The stress. I mean, when you're harboring probably how many lies are stuck in her head.
I do want to continue to help educate the Conservative leader. I'm going to point him to
I can't hear any of that. So,
Mr. Speaker, because it does seem that the Conservative leader, who for baffling reasons wants to take all the questions, maybe to show off his ignorance, doesn't actually understand.
I would ask the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister maybe to retract that and finish that.
Throw her out.
I gave enough grace to allow to repeat. The Honourable Deputy Prime Minister.
Throw her out.
I'm sorry. I retract that. So let me just say,
So disingenuous.
It was baffling to me that the Conservative leader is taking all of the questions to show he doesn't really understand what we're doing, but it gives me a chance to explain it to him. So it only kicks in after $250,000. 90% of capital gains does this new level.
The Honourable Leader of the
She didn't
Official
even understand her
Opposition.
own law.
Mr. Speaker, I just gave that minister more than 20 opportunities to prove that what she was saying was true. I asked her, and she refused, if she'd give an exemption to her tax hike to carpenters, farmers, fishermen, plumbers, union workers, restaurant owners, electricians. She said no. She said no to exempting people who earn less than $120,000 a year. Why? Because we know that that's exactly who she's going after. She's going to rob the people who pay the bills in this country to pay for her obese and out-of-control spending. Why won't she finally end the ripoff?
Mr. Speaker, yesterday our government gave every single Conservative MP a chance to stand on the side of working people, of teachers, of nurses, of electricians, of carpenters, of welders. They cannot wiggle out of the shocking position they took. They took a position on the side of multimillionaires against working people and against fairness. But now all of Canadians know where they stand.
Yeah. Point of order, the Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I believe if you seek it, you will find unanimous consent following.
I'm already.
This is wild.
I'm already hearing.
They're storming out.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition. I just want to. Folks, give me a second here.
Wow.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition has the floor.
Wow.
I don't even know what he's asking for. No, I cannot.
Wow, that's where unbelievable. These liberals need to be put in jail. We don't have a jail big enough for all these liberals. We got to build a new one. That's where we should be spending our tax dollars. Nice big red jail, throw all of them in there. They're 100% targeting all the hard working class Canadians. They want to find all those fishermen who've got 5 or 6 boats that are making good money every year that took them 30, 40 years to build that business up, and they just want to squeeze the dollars right out of the hardworking plumbers and electricians, carpenters, builders. The housing situation is just going to get worse and worse. Builders not building right now because things are too expensive. There's one unifying issue that is the heart of all of this, and we already know what the answer is. It's the immigration. There's way too many people. We don't have the houses. It is destroying our country. Trudeau keeps trying to bring in millions of people, hoping they'll all vote for him. But the people he's bringing in from India, they get a quick whiff of Trudeau and they're like, oh yeah, no, we're not voting for that guy. It's not working. Your plan failed, Trudeau. Either the people of India are not going to vote at all, or they're going to vote Conservative because they've watched a few House sessions. They quickly picked up that Trudeau and all his den of thieves are a bunch of lying losers. Okay, let's jump over to my group now for a few memes. We need to cool down after that episode. The once great Royal Canadian Mounted Police have become the Royal Canadian Mounted Puppets under Justin Castro. Yeah, sadly, that needs to be reformed completely. He began his life as a dog, but thanks to gender ideology, he's now a cow. Joe, what are we doing here? I don't know, you frat boy. I'm pretending to have C word and cancer, so I'm not asked to campaign. Yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. Le divorce. Why are people always making fun of me? Polyamory, but it's because you need 3 incomes to survive now. Yeah, basically. I bet you $1,000 you'll never own a house. Oh, it's terrible. It's so true. Filthy rat, Trudeau. Boo-hoo, Jennifer O'Connell. Your mouth is as rotten as the back end of a dog, you rotten bimbo. We can save 3 to 6 billion trees per year if we switch back to using hemp products instead of timber. Yeah, the Liberals don't actually care about climate change or any eco stuff. It's just a big scheme to steal our money. They really don't care. Otherwise, they would be looking into stuff like this or bamboo or whatever. That's where we wrap up this episode. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys thought about that session. Pierre just came locked and loaded with basically the ultimate gotcha on her. He knew she was going to do the fairness for generations, blah, 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 capital gains. And he's just like, okay, well, are you going to exempt the 99.87%? Like, no, that's the whole point, is to take more Canadians' money. She wants to go go after the electricians who've built up a business. They have a $80,000 truck or a welder or a backcountry mechanic, mining companies, the whole thing. That's who she wants to squeeze more money out of, because she doesn't care about us. She cares about lining her own pockets with these dirty green eco slush funds and all that crap. They're chipping away at us one day at a time, but we're getting closer to kicking them out of office one day at a time. So be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching the end of the video here. We're going to keep fighting for freedom. I'll see you guys in the next one.